Good evening, everyone. This is Arnav and today I'll be rekindling the fuel of the future. So, today we have two main types of energy production: renewable energy resources and non renewable energy resources. So, the main types of non renewable energy resources are fossil fuels like crude oil and natural gas, and then there is uranium 235, which powers the nuclear power stations. And then, of course, there is coal. So, the disadvantages of non renewable energy resources are that they are limited in quantity and they pollute our environment, which is why the goal of the 21st century is to step away from these non renewable energy resources and move toward renewable energy resources. So, let's look at what we have today. This is solar energy, and the disadvantages of solar energy is that they take up a lot of space to produce sufficient amounts of electricity and they require heavy maintenance and replacement. But in spite of these reasons, I believe that solar energy has a great potential in the 21st century, and I'll talk about this later in the presentation. Moving on, we have wind energy, and the disadvantages of wind energy are that they take up vast amount of space to produce sufficient amounts of electricity. Also, they heavily depend on wind. Plus, the turbines require heavy maintenance as birds often get stuck into them. So, wind energy is not a viable or a dependable source of energy to power our 21st century day needs. Moving on, we have hydroelectric energy. And the disadvantages of hydroelectric energy are that they rely heavily on rainwater, which means that the shortage of rainwater will cause a shortage in electricity. Also, they restrict water movement in rivers, which means that they may cause flooding in the nearby areas, thus disturbing the villages and the nearby ecosystem. So this also is not a dependable source of energy to power our modern day needs. So now you might be thinking that is our future in energy production bleak? But the fact is that new forms of energy production are coming forth, and we are going to discover them today. So the first one is a relatively simple method of energy production, as this is solar roadways. The idea is to place solar blocks onto the roads, which will generate electricity. The advantages of this technology are that they do not occupy additional space on Earth, as they only take up space which is being used by roads. Also, they are so efficient that scientists speculate that this alone can power up to 90% of the modern day energy needs, which is quite a lot. But moving on, we have another source of energy, which is relatively a complex method of energy production, and this is called space solar satellites. The idea is to place solar satellites into the orbit, which will generate electricity and beam the electricity back to the Earth's surface using waves. The advantages of the system are that they do not occupy any space on Earth. Also, they can generate electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as they in space sunlight is ever present, unlike Earth. So there are two main types of space solar satellites. They are microwave transmitting solar satellites and laser transmitting solar satellites. So microwave transmitting solar satellites beam back the collected energy to the Earth's surface using microwaves. And laser transmitting solar satellites beam back the collected energy to the Earth's surface using laser beams. So now you might know that transportation takes up a major chunk of the total energy produced. And to combat this issue, we have a solution. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the saltwater car. And this car runs on the most abundant resource on Earth, which is salt water. I speculate that this car will reduce transportation costs greatly. Also, this car produces zero emissions, which is a plus for the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this car is a major breakthrough and a step towards the field of transportation. And I believe this is your future in transportation. Thank you.